Hey, what's going on, my YouTube family? I'm here for my weekly review of Greenleaf. This is episode 11 called Changing Season. Oh my gosh. This episode was just awesome. It was just freaking awesome. And it deals with a lot that's changing for the Greenleafs. A lot is changing in terms of from changes from season 1 from the first half of season 2. Now this episode opens up. Lady May and Grace are at breakfast and they are talking. The article that her and Darius did in the last episode has been published, and it's kind of hitting close to home, hitting that sore spot for Lady May, if you will, because she's like, I never thought that my brother's crimes would still be making the news like this, but hopefully for the people that want answers, they'll get their answers. And here comes Sophia. She's talking about this cotillion. Her and Zora ends up not getting in. So Lady May is trying to figure out why they didn't get in. And in the midst of Lady May trying to figure out why her granddaughters did not get into the cotillion, Bishop comes in and he says, Grace, are you ready? And they're on their way to Triumph for the Memphis Bishops meeting. And this is something that's held monthly, and all of the pastors, bishops, priests, different churches gather together and talk about what they can do for the community. So Jacob is there, and it's so funny because before they go, Bishop says, well, Grace, my daughter said I should go. And Lady May is like, well, she's right. You should go. And oh my gosh, like for real. Oh, for real. It was like, oh my gosh, you can really see Lady May sticking up for Grace this time. And Grace had like, really? Oh my gosh, she's sticking up for me. So, you know, she basically tells them, she said, honey, if we let enmity keep us confounded in the place that we are, we're going to be stranded exactly where we are, whatever the hell they said. I don't care. But anyway, Bishop and Grace arrive at Triumph. And what ends up happening, they run into Jacob. They have a greeting. And Jacob is thoroughly surprised that they came. And Bishop is like, why not? And he was like, he said, well, Basie, me, He said the same thing that Lady May said. If we allow ourselves to be confounded in places where enmity and different crap is, we'll be stranded right where we are. So what ends up happening, Jacob is basically speaking about what they can do for the community, and he started the Real Church of Memphis, which is his ministry. Is geared towards the homeless community, is geared towards those who are down and out, who are at their wits' end, who really needs that outreach from the church, which is what the church is supposed to be doing. But during this, Basie Skanks and one of the priests in the area talk about a 16-year-old who attempted suicide because he's gay, he's dealing with his sexuality, and he didn't kill himself. But what ends up happening, and YouTube, please do not take this video down, I'm just giving a synopsis of what we're talking about happened. They advocate for showing love to the LGBT community, and not preaching out of hate, if you will, but showing that love as God commands us. So it's really a pivotal episode for them, as well as a very pivotal episode. And I like how this episode really, and I love Greenleaf for this, how they are talking about the fact that there are LGBT members in religious groups, and that you can reconcile your sexuality with your faith, contrary to popular belief. And Grace is like, she's taken into her ear what Basie has said, and they're all trying to figure out what they can do to reach out, to let this child know that God cares, that we care. You don't have to take your life. God loves you. And it comes later in a big debate. Now, we find out a little bit more about Sister Rochelle Cross. So she's all up in Bishop's office, and she's made him a pineapple upside down cake. And what she does is she's made him a upside down pineapple cake, like I said, and she's sitting on his desk all sexy like, and she's played by Latoya Luckett. Latoya Luckett is giving me life. Let me put on my dang on glasses, child. She is giving me life, honey. I look like my aunt. So what she does, honey, Lady Mae walks in, and she's like, oh, she was like, and Bishop was like, she jumps up like, oh, and Pastor's like, oh, hi, this is Miss Croft. She made that contribution to the ministry, and she was like, well, hi, nice to meet you. She says, well, Bishop, I need to talk to you, and they have their words, and Lady Mae leaves, and Rochelle is like, well, did I do something wrong? He said, no, you were perfect. And I'm thinking that Bishop is probably messing with Mae, or he's trying to pick with her. It's something in the milk ain't white, okay? So, Lady Mae figures out what she's going to do about this whole cotillion thing. She has an antique gun from 1842, and she calls her friend Jacinta, and she gives her that. And what she does that as a ploy to figure out what's really going on with her granddaughters concerning this whole cotillion thing, concerning this whole, cotillion ball. So what she does is, she's talking to her, and Jacinta says, I'm sorry to hear that you didn't send your nomination in for the cotillion. She said, oh, I did. She said, well, I didn't see them in the paperwork. And we find out that Tasha Skanks is a part of that whole cotillion thing, and it is just one thing after the other. So what later happens is Sophia and Zora are down and out about the whole cotillion thing, and Carissa tells Zora, if you want, we can go to New York and we can go see Hamilton. She says, but Mom, you said it was too expensive given their current financial situation since they bought their property to get off from under Basie's thumb. So what she does, she says, well, we can afford it since we don't have to buy that dress. But Lady Mae ends up coming through, and she tells Grace, she's like, Grace, it's not your fault. We find out that after Lady Mae done confronted Tasha, done cussed her out and read her for filth, and Tasha is like, honey, you think you're going to be on the front pages of Southern Decorum? But no. I'll be there before you and all that kind of stuff, because she takes a lot from Lady Mae. But Tasha's so dang on ratchet, okay? She's ratchet. She's a hood girl. So what she does is Lady Mae pulls up the emails via her secretary and goes to Tasha. We find out that Tasha is reading over the email, and she says, you sent it to the wrong address. It was .org and not .com. And Lady Mae says, but I sent it before the due date, but we still didn't get it in time. So Lady Mae is pissed off as hell, and she's trying to figure out what she's going to do to get her doggone granddaughters in this cotillion. Now, let's focus on Charity a little bit. Charity is still trying to find Kevin. Aaron has left the building. We cannot find Kevin. Aaron is left. So she calls Carlton because she's trying to write a song, and she really needs some creativity. She's talking to one of the praise and worship leaders, and she's advising her. She said, why don't you call Carlton? You have been saying that the praise team and the choir have not been the same since he left. And really things have not been the same since Lady Mae fired him, because people were up in arms about him being gay. So she calls Carlton, and he's like, girl, I thought you forgot all about me, Miss Charity Greenleaf. And she was like, no, it's not like that. There's a lot going on. So when he arrives, she's talking to him, and he says, oh, so why did you call me? She said, I've been busy. Sorry for not calling you. He said, oh, so you just call me when you need me. She says, no, I have really been busy. It's been a lot going on. And she goes on to tell him about the divorce. Her and Kevin finally split up. And she goes on to telling her about how they focus so much on the divorce and Kevin being gay that they really haven't mourned the loss of the baby girl, which would have been Nathan's twin, Eden Brook. And that's a sore spot for her. And she breaks down and she's like, you know, people make it seem like it would have been rude. And I'm about to cry, child, because, she's like, people, my God. She said it would seem like it would be rude to talk about it, or like, you know, we didn't want to cause any offense. She said, but I think about her every day. And Carlton is like, I'm here for you. I'm your friend. You can unload that on your friends. You can let go, Charity. I'll hold on to it for you. Okay? And, you know, you really see Charity coming to terms. And then she starts talking to Nathan about his baby sister. You see her finally confronting the fact that she lost a child. And I think that may be one of the reasons why Kevin left. He's not only dealing with his sexuality, but he lost a child in the process, and him coming into terms with his sexuality, losing a child, losing his wife as well, trying to figure out who he is. It's a lot for him, and I can only imagine. So they're still trying to find Kevin at this point. I hope they find him, which I got a feeling they will. And it's just one thing after the other. So we go to find Zora and Isaiah in her bedroom. Now, everybody's been telling her to stay away from baby Ike Turner because he is no good for her. And they're talking and kissing, and she's telling him about the cotillion. She said, well, I already got my dress for this cotillion, and it's in my shopping cart. He said, ain't no woman of mine gonna be walking around in a poofy dress. She said, it's not that, but you know, this means something. It's like connections and all that good stuff, sort of like the scholarship and pageants and stuff. And they come to the subject about intimate relations. And he says, well, have you thought any more about, you know, doing what we do? He said, I got what we need, talking about protection. And she's like, well, yes, I know we talked about it, but I'm not ready. Flip a couple of scenes, and she's talking to Sophia. Sophia's like, okay, girl, what's it? What is it? She said, promise not to judge me. She said, okay, well, Isaiah came over. And Sophia's like, Isaiah! She says, you said you weren't going to judge me. She said, we did it. It. She said, you had sex all loud, and it was so funny. And Sophia is like, how was it? And Zora's like, I don't know. I guess good. She's like, well, how did it feel? She said, it felt weird, different. And they start talking, and Sophia calls her boyfriend, Roberto, whatever his name is. And he was like, what's going on? What's on your mind? She said, well, I got a question that I want to ask you, something personal. She said, have you ever, you know, had relations, intimate relations? And he said, no. Have you? She's like, no. And you can see him smiling like, okay, like, so you can tell her and that guy are bonding over the fact that they're both holding on to the V card. But we don't know if Sophia, since she just got baptized and she's trying to live holy, like the Bible says, if she's going to try and have with him, or if, you know, what's going to happen. So we go on and on and on, and we see that that Lady May has finally resolved the whole issue. What happens at dinner is Miss Cross is there, and she's telling what brought her to Calvary. She was stricken with breast cancer, and the Pastor Kensington from Redeemer, didn't really come and check on her as a pastor should, and she felt like she didn't have support. And she was saying how her clients were the ones, some were her best friends during that time, during chemo, during her ups and downs with breast cancer. Speaking of which, I have breast cancer awareness shirts available on my online store. Y'all check those out. So anyway, what she does, she tells them about what happens, and they get to arguing about ministry at the table. And Bishop's like, this is not the time to be arguing. And they bring up the whole subject about basic schemes. Aria, if you will, about the LGBT community and religion. And what happens is Grace is like, well, you know, we should show them love. And Carissa, with her holier than thou self, is like, well, you know, God loves, but he hates the sin. So why would we advocate for sin? And Jacob is like, Carissa, not now. So you can kind of see where Jacob is starting to put Carissa in her place, because she's going above and beyond. She's doing a bit much. She's like doing way too much. So, and you see her really going back and forth with Grace like she did when Grace first came on the scene in the first season. And Lady Mae is like, well, you know, we don't really want to ascribe to that lifestyle. And Bishop already forewarned that he didn't want to get too far into that because, you know, people are set in tradition, but some people like controversy. So it's a big thing about the LGBT community in church. And she was like, Lady Mae says, well, we don't discriminate. And Grace is like, really? And Carissa's like, well, we didn't make Kevin leave. Kevin left on his own accord, on a natural voice in his soul or whatever. But it's really going down to Carlton, how Lady Mae fired Carlton because of his orientation. And Grace says, you know what? Now is not the time to be arguing. She said, you know what, Mom? I'm sorry. And Lady Mae is like, it's okay. It's okay. So that next morning, well, actually before the next morning comes, Lady Mae and Bishop and Miss Cross are talking. And she says to Bishop, can me and Sister Cross talk for a little minute, might we? And Bishop's like, I'll get your coat. Lady Mae and Rochelle talk, and she says, now, she said, I'm sorry for how I acted earlier today before I put my foot in it. I'm sure the cake was good. She said, oh, honey, after that dinner, she says, well, something that you said really stuck out to me, and she mentions that Rochelle knows Jacinta. So she uses Rochelle Cross as a pawn to get Sophia and Zora into the cotillion. And what happens that next morning, she tells Grace, let's talk about this Miss Cross. She said, I'm gonna see if she is as good as on her word as she says she is. And Sophia comes in. She said, we got in. Oh my gosh, we got in. And she was like, oh my gosh, she's like, they emailed us and told us that there was some kind of mix-up. And Lady Mae said, I told y'all it was going to work out. I told you it was going to work out. Nobody ever listens. And Grace said, well, thank you, Grandma, for that, honey. And right beforehand, she tells Grace, she said, Grace, it's not your fault. She said, it's not your fault this time, because Grace was thinking it was because of the article that Darius Nasher wrote about her killing Mac in self-defense. And Lady Mae kept telling her, it was in self-defense, honey. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about people judging you. It was in self-defense. You know you didn't go over there to kill Mac. You know you was protecting yourself and your child. And she says, this whole thing about the cotillion has nothing to do with that. She said, it's my mistake. I sent the email to the wrong address, and that's my fault. And she was like, thank you, Mama, for telling me. And Lady Mae was like, thank you for not judging me. So you can see them kind of working towards a better relationship with each other. And I'm sorry if I'm looking up. I'm trying to monitor my time in my videos. I'm trying not to be long-winded, okay? And she tells her, thank you. Well, Charity is showcasing the new song to Jabari. And Jabari's standing there. He's listening. And Charity is playing that piano with her whining self. She's a whining, honey, Deborah Joy. Whining is giving me life. And she was like, well, what do you think? He's like, I like it. That's good. I like it. And then she kisses Jabari dead on the lips. They lip lock, then they look at each other, and it goes off. I'm gagging. So you can really see that there is some kind of connection there, and that Charity really wants Jabari, honey. I want Jabari. Okay, that's a fine man. No, that's a fine man. So I want y'all to sound out. What do y'all think about this week's episode of Greenleaf? What do y'all think of Greenleaf this week? Okay. So y'all sound off. Y'all live, love, and be free from the priestess. Smooches. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at YaniqueTMusic. For business inquiries, email me at yaniquetmusic@gmail.com. All the information is posted below. Hit subscribe, set those notifications. Don't forget to share my videos.